Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. I am Hamza Idris. On Tidbits tonight, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Inec, Mahmoud Yakubu, on Tuesday said there is no plan to postpone this year's elections in the country despite identified challenges. Professor Yakubu, who addressed a global policy think tank, the Chatham House, says though conducting the election for about 93.4 million registered voters is a daunting task, the Commission is ready to surmount such difficulty. Yakubu enumerated challenges that could undermine the election to include insecurity, attacks on the Commission's facilities, among others. He, however, acknowledged lessons learned from previous elections and the task associated with the deployment of technology to enhance the process. Take a look at excerpts.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alex Vine. In West Africa, Nigeria's current voter population is 16.7 million, higher than the 76.7 million registered voters in all the other countries put together, and there are 14 other countries in the sub-region. This means that a general election in Nigeria is like conducting elections in the whole of West Africa and beyond. Secondly, Nigeria's election is not a one-day activity. There will be national elections followed by state elections. National elections, that is presidential election and elections to the two houses of assembly, the Senate and the House of Representatives, will hold on Saturday. Violence during electioneering campaign, vote buying, electoral litigation and adjudication, prosecution of electoral offenses, and for many in this hall, the nagging question of diaspora voting. Now, these wide-ranging issues cannot be covered in detail, if at all, within the 20 minutes, or if Alex is flexible, 20 long minutes, which may be 25 or 30, that I have for my presentation. I will therefore highlight the more critical issues so that we can have more time for discussion. Actually, that's the part I like best, the discussion. I have prepared a 23-page lecture, a copy of which will be given to the organizers and will also be uploaded to the Inec website immediately after the presentation and discussion.
That was Professor Yakubu, 23-page lecture for the audience at the Chatham House. And for today's discussion, the Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, has returned to work after spending weeks abroad amid reports of a plan by the Department of State Service, DSS, to arrest him. The CBN governor on Monday resumed office at the CBN headquarters after spending weeks in the United Kingdom and the United States following reports of plots by the DSS to arrest him. The bank, in its response, urged Nigerians to continue to support the policies of the bank aimed at ensuring a stable financial system and the Nigerian economy in general. Meanwhile, the DSS has denied invading the CBN head office in Abuja. The development appears to have put a temporary stop to the reported plot by the DSS to arrest the nation's #1 banker. Emefiele, perhaps the most embattled and controversial CBN governor in the recent history of the country, left Nigeria last month, with some linking his exit to the decision of the DSS to arrest him. This then begs the many questions. Number one, is the CBN governor absence just a vacation, or there are more to the story? Is the DSS denial of the arrest plot to actually credible? How will the recent events affect the stability of the Nigerian economy? These and many more questions will be our focus on Daily Politics tonight. And to share their thoughts on the issues, we are joined in the studio by Jamil Muhammad, an economic analyst and an author. We are also joined by Emmanuel Semeka, a public affairs analyst. Welcome to the program, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Yes. MFLA, CBN governor. Well, we'll take a short break, and when we return, the conversation commences. Don't go away.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130.
Created a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secure are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Or really, if you look at England squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
Welcome back. Mr. Emmanuel, I think I should start with you. Why Chatham House? It's like every other person now really have confidence in themselves without going to Chatham House, because almost all the presidential candidates have visited, and now, you know, policy makers, because today we had the Inec chairman. What is your take on this?
It looks like the Chatham House has the magic wand for whoever will become the next president of Nigeria. If my memory, you know, helps me well, I think it was President Muhammadu Buhari that was the first in my
I think he was there ahead of even winning the election.
Yeah,
he was there.
He was there.
Jamilu?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So in
And he won.
2014.
Yes.
And he won in 2015.
Yes.
Then, of course, subsequently, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was there some weeks ago.
Atiku.
Then was Atiku there?
He was there.
Atiku was also there. Then, of course,
Peter Obi.
We're waiting for Dr. Rabiu Musa.
He announced it last week that they will suspend their strike. Their campaign in some regions to honor the invitation.
So when Nigeria is now taken to Chatham House, that's fantastic. So we'll see what happens. But unfortunately, during when the UK election takes place, nobody comes to the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs to speak to us or go to the US to speak to them. Neither do the US counterparts also come to Nigeria. I really don't know. I think we still have our apron tied to the UK one way or the
mentality, the foreign mentality.
Because they colonized Nigeria, and after 60-something years, we are still going back to suckle from the mothers, you know. So I think those are some of the challenges, but I don't know the craze for...
Maybe Jamilu has something to say. Is it that if you didn't go there, it means you are looking down on those who colonized us before?
I think there is some kind of trying to sell the place.
Okay,
that's how
Chatham
I say
House.
Chatham House is they are trying to brand the name. I think it's a branded name that they think politicians, most especially politicians of this extract from our own part of the world, should brand and sell. Otherwise, I have tried looking at what Chatham House is.
And even the people there.
And even
but
the
I think
people
it's just a coalition of some analysts, you know, think tank, they put them. Don't we have them in Nigeria?
We do.
Such people that you can go and, you know, present yourself and your manifesto and all that.
As my friend here has said, I think one of our problem is we still have that colonial mentality hanging over us. This is one of the issues. The other issue is not even the colonial mentality. There is also that frame of work that a kind of trying to spend wildly. That's how I see it.
Okay.
Yes. Otherwise, apart from these issues, I don't see anything.
No big deal.
No big deal. They have not said there is no program of events that would be rolled out there that cannot be rolled out here.
For instance, yeah, just today, today in Jos, IPAC, is an Inter-Party Advisory Council, held a meeting there, and they invited even ECOWAS, I think representation from ECOWAS, representation from UN. They all spoke, but it's not really making headlines. Here we are now discussing Chatham House. And even apart from NIPS, before we started the program, you made mention of
Institute of International
Affairs in Lagos. So how can we change the thinking of Nigerians to say, oh, look, domestic products, I mean, homemade products are equally good, are equally valuable. They will even resonate more with the people compared to the borrowed gap that we always rush for abroad.
I think we'll get there someday. I don't know how soon we'll get there, but sometime when I take a look at situations like this, we copied our democracy from America, even though we're not practicing anything close to what
ours is now a mixture of democracy from all over the world.
All over the world. So I know that almost every serious American presidential candidate must visit the Jewish, and make a speech there.
Yeah.
So it looks like the Chatham House.
So we copy our democracy a la carte, right?
And I understand, I heard about some conspiracy theories.
Okay.
Most especially from you, the press.
Okay.
That part of the reason for Chatham House is that every candidate must go and present his or her own CV. And also tell the cabal outside
the so-called cabal.
Yes.
Oh. But they are the ones voting, even in the UK, they are the ones really voting.
No, you have to go and sign off.
Okay.
Sign off, yes, I'm going to give you A, B, C, D.
And will they actually help you win?
They should.
He said it's a conspiracy theory, don't forget.
Because maybe they have some Chatham demands, I don't know.
From the press, actually.
But you see, I'm a journalist. Yes. I've been reporting for quite a while. I know that when you say Chatham House, when we meet prominent people, they will say Chatham House, meaning they are only giving you information as a privilege, not for you to go and divulge it anywhere. No. But here we are now. The Chatham House has been opened so wide
everywhere
that almost all, whatever you will say, will just be rolled out to the world. So I don't know.
Except there are two sessions. Maybe there are closed door sessions. In Nigeria we like closed door sessions. So there might be closed door sessions. Then of course there are speech. You make your speech for 20 minutes. Yes. Then of course the question and answer and all that. So it can be anything really. In all honesty, but no one can wrap his hand around the significance of going to Chatham House. It will still all, hover around that speculation on whether it is. The owners of Nigeria are in Nigeria, they're not anywhere else.
Yeah.
The cabals in Nigeria except they have affiliates.
Yeah.
Which we do not know.
Yes.
But also I know that one way or the other, for you to have foreign direct investment in any given economy in Africa, some people make it happen.
Please, are these politicians taking Nigerians for granted? Why am I saying this? If they go to Chatham House, you see, even the way they dress, the way they talk, they articulate their points, no name dropping, no name calling, no hurling of insults, nothing. But back home here,
oh my God,
at every campaign arena, you see them hurling insults. Is it that they are taking Nigerians for granted? Between yesterday and today, you have heard it and you've seen it. The Atiku campaign, Tinubu campaign, what they are doing. In fact, they are calling for security operatives to arrest each other. What is the problem, Jamilu?
I think our own general populace do not take the politicians to task. This is what
they are gullible.
They are gullible. We are generally gullible. If you look at our voting population, go to the social media most especially, and see everyone there. What people actually admire is that you are there. That's what generally people. So how you get there,
Whether you have something to offer or not.
Whether you are hiding something, that's not the issue. Just be there. People
as candidates. Because you know you not live without dropping something.
Of course. So the general populace do not take them to task. So I think because we are gullible, then they feel they can trample on us. And the intellectual part of politics is actually very, very small in our context. It's very, very small. So when you come as a politician, you just splash whatever you want to splash, you know. A politician would just come and say,
so sometimes they don't even say anything during the campaigns.
They don't.
Apart from, you know, shout and all that. And then you see the voters, so-called voters, hailing them. Sure. Why is the problem, Emmanuel?
Okay, I think hitherto, 2023 campaigns, we've had very shallow and very unpalatable campaign strategies all along. I mean, if you recall, 2015 election, you had part of the campaign strategy was some politicians eating roasted corn on the street, some plaiting people's hair, some frying akara and all that. Those were the campaign strategies some people adopted just to be able to appeal to people that they are as normal.
But is that supposed to be the standard?
Unfortunately, that was what we had. But of course, I think what we have in 2023 campaigns is slightly better than what we've always had in the past.
Sure.
Because prior to 2023, we've never had almost all the presidential candidates release their manifesto. That's first.
Okay.
Two, we've never had presidential candidates do as much town halls that they've done.
Apart from the usual
jamboree and all that. So today, in this 2023 election, you have the major four contenders. They've spoken to intellectuals at LCCI. They've spoken to intellectuals at Nigeria Economic Summit Group, at Manufacturers Association Group, MBA, and so many others. I mean, they had interactions, town hall interactions at the Arewa House. They are going to have another interaction somewhere in Abuja very soon. And it's been, like that. And if you watch closely, the strategy this time is more of town hall conversations. The PDP candidate is still doing more of the traditional. I mean, he's the most, should I use the word?
Conventional or something like that?
He's been the one, he's besides President Muhammadu Buhari, he's been the one that has, been in the forefront for a long time.
Yes.
I think this should be his 6th or 7th.
I can't even remember the number.
For Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu of APC, he's doing a lot of town halls. Yeah. It's his first time. For Peter Obi of Labour Party, he's doing a lot of town halls.
And he has been a running mate all through.
Yes, he's been running mate prior. Then, of course, Rabi Musa Kwankwaso is also doing some town halls and a lot of traditional engagements and all that. So it's slightly different from what it used to be. But I understand what your question is.
Yes.
That intellectual engagement
the depth
is missing. And, of course, I'm not very sure if there will be any debate this time around.
Okay, and maybe the last question on this matter is, are they really speaking from their heart? Because people call it gaffe, but I don't look it that way. If Atiku during campaign will say APC, Tinubu during campaign will say maybe PAPC or PDP or whatever. Are they really, these manifestos, this town hall, are they really speaking from their heart?
It is conventional, that's all. It's conventional to produce a manifesto, so they have a think tank that will sit down and produce a manifesto. And what is the percentage of implementation of these manifestos in the past?
And even whether they really they are part of the think tank
that produces the manifesto.
Because on many occasions you see them, stepping on there, struggling to pronounce certain words, or even to understand maybe certain sentences from the script given to them.
That is to tell you that they are not speaking from their hearts. They have only put a certain committee in place, do this for me.
Even though it's acceptable all over the world, you have people around you, but at least you should be part of the
not even part. You can give the structure while your committee will detail it.
Yeah.
But if the structure is not from you, definitely you will go and gaff. That's what is happening.
That is it on Chatham House. Yes. Emmanuel, back to our topic of discussion today. The CBN governor back in the country yesterday. Some said he was even sneaked, Sunday night, and in the morning, he was escorted to the CBN by military operatives. Why did we descend so low, and we get it this bad? I don't know.
I think our brother, Godwin Emefiele, is the architect of his own problem.
How?
Because clearly we've had before now, I'm not quite sure what number of CBN governor he is, but before him we've had Damushirama.
Yeah.
We've had Paul
Abdul Qadir Ahmed.
Yeah, Abdul Qadir Ahmed. We had
Charles Soludo.
Sunusi
Lamido Sunusi.
So
quite a number.
We've had quite a number, and there were precedents set on how, on what, on the do's and the don'ts. For the first time in the history of Nigeria, we saw a CBN governor under this our democratic practice who was clearly partisan. It's never heard of. It's unheard of. It's like the head of Treasury of the United States, who is supposed to be a technocrat, to be a card-carrying member of a political party or the other. When President Obama came into office in 2008, is it 2008?
Yes, 2009.
Yeah, his first term.
2009.
In his first term,
yes,
there was recession. America was in recession. They were negative growth. He retained the chairman of Treasury, who was appointed by the Republican president.
Yeah.
That is how much you value institution and institutional memory. And that is what our CBN is supposed to represent, unfortunately. When President Muhammadu Buhari came on board, Godwin Emefiele was appointed by the PDP government.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be, the CBN governor is not supposed to be a partisan person.
It should be apolitical.
It should be apolitical. But unfortunately, he brought himself so low and began to do unethical things. And by so doing, he exposed himself. And that is why you have what you have today. So some of the policies he brought out, recently, they changed.
Which we'll get to them. But maybe let me hear Jamilu. He was sneaked to his office by operatives of the military, while DSS, of course, for sure, some people said they were, around the premises. Some of them even had access to the floor where his office is actually domiciled, and they went away with some papers. But the DSS issued a statement. As pressmen, we carried both, that they said they were not there, even though there are some photos. People in the bank also, said, they were indeed there. Why are they playing cat and mouse? These are two strong institutions of government.
As my colleague here has said,
Emmanuel,
the origin of the problem
is
Mr. Emefiele himself. You see, he from the technocrat that he is supposed to be, I don't know if one problem actually people point out is there's this dichotomy of whether it is an economist or a banker that should head the central bank.
Yes.
I know this problem, so people blame the kind of background you have before you become the central bank governor. So if you are not, you do not have that background, that intellectual background, that technocratic background, then I think you are certainly going to fall into that. And he fell into that, opened himself to politicization of the system. And even if you look at the way he ran the system, I think basically he ran the system on an autopilot system. I doubt if he was actually on the ruders of the central bank. So that alone should open him out for attack. And in trying to defend himself, he's likely going to fall into
many traps.
Many traps like this. And our system is so individualized that you have institutions, very weak institutions, and then very strong individuals. It is supposed to be the other way around. Strong institutions, possibly modest individuals.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't know if we can actually ascertain if the Nigerian army was instrumental in ferrying him into his office.
They were maybe directed from certain quarters.
I'm still at a loss.
And this is where, because you have to come back to where you stopped earlier. If the president now inherited MFLA from the previous administration, and then at the beginning of his tenure or midway, he realized that there are issues around him, what is he supposed to do? Is it just to keep looking simply because it's tenured, that the tenure must, and you can see when the first tenure ended, they even renew it? Why?
So these are some of the challenges that we're talking about, because under normal circumstances, don't forget that this current administration has its own major challenges. The health of the president, which he himself alluded to at the beginning, affected a whole lot of things for him. He clearly stated, I think the first week when he took office, he said that his age is going to affect
his performance.
His performance. So that was one of the major challenges.
But I think Nigerians have refused to buy that dummy, because how many, look at Mahathir. Look at even Biden.
Unfortunately,
all these are older than him, but simply because they have institutions, you can see they are still running their country.
You've answered the question, because they have institutions. And my colleague just mentioned the issues we have had. We pride ourselves with strong men as against strong institutions. Because if you have very strong institutions, you put modest people there, they follow through the system, and the system will run itself. You don't go outside of the system. So, for example, we had Lamido Sanusi, who was the CBN governor. And when he came, he cleaned house. Some of the challenges the his predecessor had, Charles Soludo had, he cleaned it up, especially the banking industry.
The reform.
He reformed the banking industry. Why? He was an economist, and he saw his job from the prism of his own competence, which was risk management. So he saw through the risk management. He was not hobnobbing with MDs of banks. He changed the system completely. It was under him that as you cannot run the bank for more than 10 years. And that is helping the system, because if you look at now that they say change the money, we are seeing Oceanic Bank wrappers in money. Oceanic Bank closed down more than 11 years ago. So the challenge we've had so far is the fact that, like I mentioned about the president's health, if probably he had his health completely and he was probably younger, he may have been able to sit down and had critical look at the performance of his appointees, or even somebody like Emefiele. But you agree with me that there are people around the president who make suggestions to him, and one of those suggestions is continue with Godwin Emefiele. I mean, he went into so many things that the CBN shouldn't even get their hands into.
Yes, like vying for the presidency.
That's what's at the later dates. I mean, there are a lot of things he went into. The CBN has no business running the fiscal side of the economy. He practically was running the fiscal side of the economy,
which ought to be the responsibility of the Minister of
Finance. So the monetary policy and the fiscal policy is supposed to have a handshake.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
they were parallel.
They were just
poles apart.
So I think one was even sleeping while the other one was, So Godwin Emefiele took over that responsibility, and they were throwing money at every problem Nigeria had, as against sitting down to, properly look at what will work within our current realities, and what are the policies that should be put forward, and carry the entire government apparatus along, so that at every segment of our economy, we are working towards one particular goal. Unfortunately, every part of the government was running side by side, and they were going in different directions.
Very sad. We will take a break. I think, Jamilu, I can see your mouth is really itching to say something. Yes. Viewers, we'll go on break now, and when we return, the program continues. Don't go away.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daily Politics on Trust TV. Do well to follow the conversation across our social platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and watch us live on YouTube. I have in the studio Emmanuel Osemeka and Jamilu Mohammed discussing the issues, in the CBN. Jamilu, before we went on break, I saw you really, nodding your head. Who should even be the governor of Central Bank? Because some are saying we found ourselves where we are because we bring people who actually influence their way to get to the CBN instead of maybe taking people, technocrats maybe, those who rose through the ladder within the banking system, I mean the central bank, instead of commercial banks and all that.
Yes, talking about even whether the CBN governor should come through the banking system, there are people who are wholly against that. They say the central bank should be managed by an economist rather than by a seasoned banker.
But if you read economics in the university and you started your career in CBN, you are an economist, right?
Yes, you are. But it does not actually mean that you have to rise through the ranks from the central bank to the topmost position there. In most places outside Nigeria, we have systems that breed technocrats, not necessarily from within.
You mustn't even be a banker, because I read Adamu Chiroma's, he wasn't a banker.
The mistake people are making is the central bank, when you call it the central bank, people misconstrue it to be just like normal banking, commercial.
Yeah,
the central bank, they have entirely different jobs to do. Mm-hmm. These are deposit money banks. They have what they do there. The central bank, the primary thing the central bank does is it implements and manages the regulation of the whole banking system without actually going into the commercial banking. And then it issues the legal tender issues and manages the legal tender.
Yes.
You don't have to go into the commercial aspect in that.
And this begs the question, because people are saying that sanctity, that aura of sanctity, is no longer there in CBN.
It is not there. That is why, you see, look at what Mr. MFLA has done in all his tenure. Let's look at the most recent one. You say you are managing our own legal tender. You are the issuer and manager of our legal tender. Now, you have issued more than 3 trillion of our legal tender in circulation.
Correct.
After issuing that, now you are telling us that about 2 point something, more than 50%, is not in your control. Because you say it's outside the banking system.
Yes.
If it is outside the banking system, and then every month you come and sit down, you said you are conducting the MPC, the Monetary Policy Committee meeting. One of the issues we discussed there is inflation. How are you going to regulate or attack inflation when the money you have issued, more than 50% of it is not under your control?
It's not in your control, yeah.
If you now control your own interest rate, you raise interest rate from 14% to say 15% in order to reduce the amount of money in circulation.
Yes.
But somebody outside there, or 10 other people outside there, have money under their own pillows. You by your calculation, you are reducing the money that is going out from your own bank. But these people have enough money there. They'll pump the money into circulation. And the whole thing about inflation is demand and supply.
That's it.
So what is happening is you have like a pilot. You are a certified and certificated pilot. You are sitting down in a simulator. While the airplane is there practically in the air.
Like what Osemeka said, autopilot.
And autopilot. The system is on autopilot. You are sitting down in the simulator.
Taking coffee.
Taking coffee and saying you are driving you are flying the plane. Meanwhile, it is somebody else, people with a lot of money outside the system.
Yes, and the aircraft is unmanned.
So how are you controlling inflation?
How are you controlling it, Osemeka? I can see you are in agreement with what he said.
100%. 100%.
So is it that MFLA is not getting it right?
So I think there were a lot of distractions for him.
Okay, distractions for him.
So
from where?
And I think that was what culminated into that challenge we saw, where his posters and forms were bought for him. That he even had
in court, they were bought for him.
Some people bought form, actually. We saw the people that bought the
maybe he gave them the money to buy.
Well, that's now speculative. So, but people bought forms, and people were pushing him to.
Even though he should be non-partisan, he should know this.
He
I
ought
think
to
by
have
experience.
come out to say, "I am not interested." Vehicles were purchased and branded.
But he even went to court.
He went. That's what I was trying to say. He went to court
to challenge.
That's why we said that these were the distractions, because if he had that ambition to succeed President Muhammadu Buhari, then a lot of things he did. Now, this explains a lot of the issues.
The aftermath?
The aftermath of the challenges we saw, the autopilot issue we're discussing today. Because this changing of currency or printing of new note or the coloring of our money is
it just coloring?
That's what I call it. It's just coloring the money.
Jamilu, it's just coloring.
Of course.
You also agree?
It's just coloring our money because they didn't print new notes.
And people are yet to even have access to it. I've never spent one.
It's part of the strategy now, because now he suddenly realized that he needs to do his job. So he just began to do his job.
So in real sense, he's supposed to have done this long ago.
Long ago. You don't change money in 2-3 months. You change money minimum 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. The United Kingdom is also bringing out new notes.
Yes,
and
with the photo of
almost 2 years for it to come out. They've printed the money, but it will take like 2 years for it to come out. They need to face out the money with the Queen's face and for the King's face to take over. It takes time, because you don't just wake up and mop this. But we understand that there are They're, you know, part
Forces.
of what they are now talking about is to curb vote buying and what have you.
Will it?
But you've been...
Will it stop vote buying, Jamil?
It won't at this point, because all he has done is to recycle the money again back to the same people. I don't see, up till this moment, if you go to the commercial banks, if you go to the ATMs, they still spew the old notes.
Okay,
so what have we done?
Okay.
I'm still at a loss.
Yeah. So Emmanuel, yes, you can finish your
I think
thoughts,
part of the strategy, the CBN governor, which in my view, I mean, I stand to be corrected, is to be able to starve the people of the new notes. That's the strategy. I'm sure they didn't print a lot of that money.
Okay.
What they've done is that they will continue to oscillate the old notes until the deadline.
But will it in any way curb inflation?
That is yet to be seen. But in my personal view, I think it will help reduce vote buying. That's number one.
Yeah.
It will help reduce vote buying. Then two, it will also maybe help to reduce this ransom taking.
Just the issues they roll out.
But don't forget that we are very innovative people. Or should I use the word creative people? Nigerians were very creative people. Don't forget that we have a lot of USD in circulation in this country.
And people will use that.
Well, people do not have to use that. If those who kidnap demand it,
you have to give to free your loved ones.
So these are some of the challenges that we're looking at. And you know, when you talked about the DSS, you know, laying siege at the CBN office, and of course the man in question being escorted into the office by the military. That's to show you the level of discordance we have within our security system. Because under normal circumstances, if there is a challenge and the security agencies are in tune, you wouldn't have this type of issue. The best that would happen is that Mr. Emefiele will be asked to step aside.
Who will ask him to step aside?
Well, the laws make it a bit complex because the president cannot by fiat.
He has to
he has to go through
National Assembly.
The National Assembly. Today, the National Assembly, both the Senate and the House of Reps, they are really very angry with him because he is making it impossible for them to win the election the normal way they win the election.
A new chapter now.
Unfortunately, I do not know if they have the will, to do the needful, because they have the numbers. They have what it takes. The CBN governor has flouted a lot of the provisions of the Constitution, a lot of provisions of the Bofia Act, but do they have the will? Were they not in cahoot with him all along?
Okay.
So those are some of the challenges.
Almost everybody is a victim and a villain.
I think from day one, this man, I'm sorry to say, I think he lacked the capacity to run
the CBN.
An establishment like this.
You see, go back to history. This man came around June, July 2014.
Yes.
Okay. Our GDP in 2014, I think, was around 520
something.
No, it was 540 something. 546.
Correct.
546.
The GDP.
The GDP. In 2013, it was 508. Those were the highest we have reached.
546.
508, then 546. In 2013,
it kept dwindling.
In 2013, it was 508. Then it rose 214 to 546. But immediately he came in, 214, that was the 546.
Yes.
The next year, it was something of a GDP recession. We went back to 486. Then, subsequently, 440. Then, I think around 217 or 218, we even came down to about 397.
Yes.
Even though he's not here to defend himself.
So what I'm saying here is...
But the records are there.
The records are there.
Yes.
What I'm trying to say is, since Emefiele came to this moment, the last GDP we are having is that of 2021, which is 440. if you compare 440 to
the one he
five,
met,
the 546 is about 20% decline.
Decline, yeah.
So what it means is that since this man came in, it has been recession all through 7 years. It has been GDP recession. And we still have, if we say we want to go back to pre-MFLA today, it's a Herculean task of going 20% up.
That is to recover the 7 years or 8 years
recover the 7 or 8
Okay, even though he's not here to actually defend himself, some people are saying, if not for the central bank and for his ingenuity, the country will have even collapsed because they intervene, in almost all sectors, the agricultural borrowers, the textile, the trader, and all that from
That's where
CBN.
That's where the problem
But
came
is
from.
it his problem?
No, but that's where the problem came from.
Good.
That's not the responsibility of the CBN.
But those who are supposed to do it fail, right?
No, but it's still not his responsibility. The responsibility, CBN is not that type of an interventionist agency. The place where the CBN needs to intervene is to, they intervene when it comes to inflation. They intervene, monetary policy. That's where you intervene, right? Now, CBN is supposed to be the last resort to the government.
Yeah, exactly.
And the laws are very clear on that. You borrow the government maximum 5% of the GDP.
Now, you are talking about the ways and means
yes,
now.
within a fiscal year, and it must be repaid before the end of that fiscal year. That's part of the Fiscal Responsibility Act, and of course the Banking and Other Financial Institutions Act. CBN governor did not uphold these tenets, and he borrowed the government 23 trillion.
Yeah, in ways and means.
In ways and means. And
as lender of last resort, right?
In economic
terms.
Now, the government is owing about 50-something or 40-something trillion. If you add ways and means,
as at now, yeah.
If you add the ways and means, it's 75.
Yeah, 77.
So before the end of the tenure, it's 77. And there is nowhere in our status book that says you can securitize ways and means.
And he made ways and means around 500 billion.
Yes.
Okay, we are running out of time. I want to have your take now.
What
is the implication of all this to Nigeria's economy when you put it on the world scale? They are even accusing him of being a terrorist, right? Funding terrorism and all that. So what is the implication? In less than 1 minute, Jamil.
You see, his own being there or not being there, as far as I'm concerned, I have said the economy is already on autopilot. Since the economy is...
You are saying it's comatose?
No, what I mean by autopilot is not in comatose.
Okay.
It's flying, but not under his control. It's being controlled by external forces.
Okay, will you suggest that he should leave at this moment?
Technically, yes, but there's the political angle to it. I don't want to get into that.
Yes. Okay, another time maybe you will talk about it.
I would advise him to resign because the implication that you talked about concerning the economy is that
at the global scale,
for investors to come into any economy, there must be some level of, what's the word now? There must be some level of, is it assurance?
Yes.
I'm finding a better word.
Yes, it should be. More so when election year.
Yes, people must be able to look at and say, okay, there's some level of stability.
And economic viability is important.
Yes, it's viable.
Yes.
But when they see that the economy is on autopilot, let me borrow a word of the economist.
Yes.
Nobody will put his money here because the level of uncertainty is too high. The risk is too high. Because if you put your money, if you invest in an aircraft that does not have a certified pilot, but the aircraft it will crash one day.
It's a risky gamble.
Because there's no destination.
So any of the presidential candidates is actually now maybe prone to, attacks. I mean, economic uncertainty. If things continue like this.
When they have any presidential candidate who eventually emerges as president, when they come in and they understand the economy properly, or they have a good advisor who is a proper economist, the advice will be to call the MFLA, sit him down if he does not resign before then.
Yes.
Sit him down and advise him properly
on what to do.
On how to either resign, which is the best because he needs to leave. Somebody else needs to come in and clean house just like SLS did when he took over.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel Semeka and Jamilu Mohammed, for your well-thought understanding of this issue. And we hope those that matter listen to what we discussed today. Viewers, that's a wrap on today's program. Do well to collect your voters' permanent card and make a commitment to vote in the forthcoming election to guarantee a better future for all of us. Thanks for watching and do join us again. I'm Hamza Idris.